What is going on, everybody? So today we're going to talk a little bit about Emperors in the New World, and we're also going to talk about a Fist of Divine Speed OP11, which just came out yesterday. I think was the official release date, the 6th. You might be watching this on the 8th, so 2 days ago, whatever it is. But we'll start with Emperors in the New World, and this is kind of surprising to me because I thought if we got a reprint of 09, we'd see this box come down into like the 120 range. Now, this might be a restock and not actually a reprint. These could have just been pallets that were at distribution that are now getting pushed out to LGSs, and that's going to affect the price, but not as much as a reprint. Maybe it is a reprint and there's just so much demand for this product we're not going to see it in the 120s. Or maybe it just hasn't been out long enough, and if we wait a couple more weeks or maybe a month or two, we will see this come all the way down into the 120s. But if you look at a 1 month chart, it looks like we're already seeing a little bit of support around this 160, 165-ish range. So I don't know how low this is actually going to go. Maybe you can get it cheaper than this, but I think if you don't have any 09, it's probably a good idea to pick some up on this reprint. If we look at the top cards in the set right now, some of the cards I expected to go down aren't going down, and some of them I expected to go down are going down. So the first one, the Gold Roger, I did expect this to continue to lose value, and we had a sale today, and this is a very surprising sale. $2,000 for a Gold Roger in English, and if you click on this, it will actually bring you to a BGS 9.5 black label, or not black label, but 9.5, and that is in English. It's not a Japanese version for $2,000. Very surprising to me. That seems a little bit lower than what I thought it would just randomly jump to out of nowhere. I thought we'd at least see some sort of steady decline into the high, 2,800, 2,700-ish range, and then maybe drop down into 25, 2,400 over time as we get more on the market. But right to 2K, we'll have to keep an eye on that. I don't know if the secondary market like eBay is going to be completely reflective of TCG Player. All that said, the Luffy manga from 09, this one's actually been crushing it. So we were watching this card, and lots of sales in that 900, 950 range. And I thought, was this going to break through $1,000? The two most recent sales are $1,000 and almost $1,200, but these are from May 26th and May 29th. So we haven't seen a sale in over a week, almost 2 weeks. And I imagine this is probably going to drop back down under $1,000, not just on TCG Player, but also on eBay and other platforms. Once some of these boxes that are getting pushed out in this reprint or restock get opened and more cards hit the market. Same thing with the Teach. That one I think is slowly coming down as well. The Shanks. The Buggy surprisingly is holding quite strong, and we're seeing a lot of sales, like recent sales on this. This was down like the 300 range. TCG Player Graph has it closer to 500 now, but most recent sales are actually $600. And we had one today right there. Yesterday, we also had a sale. The day before that, we had 3 sales at that price point as well. An outlier here at $376, but the majority of the sales are close to $600. And then the Nami also is holding fairly strong in that like 280, 290-ish range. We had a couple of recent sales, one from 2 days ago and one from yesterday, 290 and 288. So keep an eye on those top 6 cards. You can also keep track of the wanted posters, maybe the Boa Hancock as well. I think everything below that will see fairly significant price decreases when we get more supply on the market, but sometimes the mangas are going to outperform a lot of the other cards in the set. Now moving on, we'll discuss OP11 a little bit because this was also unexpected and kind of surprising to me. You can see here on TCG Player, since release day, like over the past couple days, this box has gone from $150 down to around $136. People are just dumping their boxes. Now, I don't know how long this is actually going to last. This seems fairly normal for a set release. You're going to have a lot of stores, racing to the bottom, trying to offload a lot of their boxes, free up capital for new sets coming, do the whole churn and burn thing. So I don't know how long this box is going to be in the 130s for. It could be a lot longer than I expect. That also would not surprise me. It seems like a lot of stores in Canada now have it in stock around 190 Canadian. I don't know what the conversion would be, but after tax around 200-ish Canadian. That's what you would be paying if you are up here in the north. And a lot of the cards in the set, we now kind of have an idea of where they're going to go. Obviously, the gold Monkey D. Luffy, the reprint from 05, this one is over $3,000 right now, which was kind of expected, I guess. I think I threw out a guess that it would be over $3,000, or an estimate rather. So $3,200 on TCG Player. That was from yesterday. If you go to eBay, there are a couple sales as well. One from yesterday at $3,100. and another one from yesterday in Brazil, $3,500 plus $40 shipping. Those are the only English ones I've found. There could be more on the market that have sold. There are a few listed as well, like high 3K range, low 4K range. I don't know if those are actually going to sell, but I would expect to see this card somewhere between $2,000 and $3,000 for the foreseeable future. Now, there are a couple other cards I think we should cover. The silver one, there's one sale I think on TCG Player, $1,500. That was from May 31st. I've seen on eBay, I think there are sales below $1,000. Correct me if I'm wrong. But this one's not going to be as expensive as the gold. The manga Gear 4 Luffy as well. People thought this one was going to be very hot out the gate. I think there was a pre-sale. If we go to eBay and you scroll down here, you know, spoilers, you can already see what it's going for now. I think if you scroll down to May here, there was one sale. You can see May 30th, $1,750. Another one here, May 31st, $1,600. So out the gate, this was selling very expensive, but now most recent sales, $675, $725, $600 on bids. Someone got a fairly decent deal there. $850, $600. So it's probably in that like $600 to $700-ish range right now. I think that's a fairly reasonable price for the card. We can take a look at a few more cards before we finish here. The Sanji Secret Rare is selling for about $175 on TCG Player, but most recent sales from today are actually $120, $110, and $120. The Shirahoshi, $120 on TCG Player. Most recent sales are in that range, $115-ish, and a few of them selling every single day. The Nami Alternate Art Leader card, this is down to around $110, and most recent sales are actually way below that, about $90-ish, and multiple copies are selling today in that range. And then we have the Treasure Rare. I figured I'd bring this up. Lucky Roo, this is selling for I think like $20-ish, 18, $20. No, actually a little bit higher, around $30, 25, 30 in that range. Now, there is one thing I'll say about this set, and this is, again, probably going to be a very unpopular opinion. I'm just not really a fan of a lot of these cards. And I'll explain what I mean by that, because I like the Gold Luffy. I think it's awesome. I do really enjoy that card. I like the manga Gear 4 Luffy. But outside of that, like a lot of cards that Bandai prints, I'm just not a huge fan of. I think they're really bland and they get boring to look at. And I know a lot of people are going to disagree with that. But I think the reality is most collectors actually agree with me. And that's why something like Pokemon, that game, that collectability is just a lot higher than games like Bandai. I mean, if you look at these cards, you just have a photo of the character and then they change the backgrounds. I mean, how many times have we seen this Luffy? I know a lot of you guys watching this because you're biased, you like One Piece, you might disagree with what I'm saying, but I think the reality is if One Piece wants to get to the next level in terms of collectability, I think Bandai needs to take a page out of Pokemon's book and really try and start printing some interesting artworks. And I'm not saying they need to change the mangas, because I really do enjoy the mangas, but things like these special rares, the secret rares, again, like it's just a character with a cool background that's gold, and some people like them. I just think they're very, very boring. I like cards. If I can bring one up here, I love the Whitebeard card from Royal Blood. I love seeing cards like this that actually have some level of depth, and you know, there's a related scene to what the character is in the anime, in the manga. Something like the Usopp card, which I know is only like $5 card, but it's him with the Usopp Pirates. I personally think cards like this are what would take One Piece to the next level. You start doing this for the popular characters like your Sanji, your Zoro, your Luffy, obviously. Like, when have we ever gotten a Luffy card where it's like him and Zoro and Nami and Usopp maybe just on the Going Merry or doing something along those lines of just hanging out together? Like a card like that would be very awesome, and I think a lot of people would want to collect something like it. And I think the reality is a lot of these special rares and secret rare cards that have some level of value have the value because they're rare and not because they're super desirable. And again, I understand this is probably a hot take. A lot of people aren't going to agree with this, but I think cards like this just get very bland very fast. And there's a reason Pokemon is so far ahead of Bandai, and no one really does artwork like how Pokemon's doing it. And I get a lot of you guys don't like when I compare One Piece to Pokemon, but the reality is, if you want to see this game succeed and you want your investments to grow, you kind of want Bandai to do things that Pokemon's doing to be able to grow the game and the collectability aspect, because that's really what's going to drive One Piece to the next level. It's not going to be the game and people playing the TCG growing the hobby. I mean, that will definitely affect it to a certain degree, but I just think you capture so many more people if you push the collectability side of the hobby and not just the TCG and making it entirely about the players. So that's all I'm going to say. Rant over. You guys let me know in the comments down below what you think. I also did get my case of OP11 in from HPW. They didn't double box it this time, guys, so if you are watching, I'm kind of annoyed about that just because it came pretty dented. I understand why stores don't double box things. It's more work for them and stuff, but I don't know. I feel like if someone's paying $2,000, $2,300 for a case of booster boxes, the least you can do is get a second box, throw it inside with a little bit of bubble wrap or void fill, whatever. But they also had a very good price and they ship fast, so honestly, maybe I'm just complaining a little bit too much. Either way, thank you guys so much for watching the video. Stay safe wherever you are in the world. I hope you're having a great weekend, and I'll catch you in the next one.